And live, Danielle Meggoe. I don't know if I pronounce
You
correctly.
pronounce it Magoo.
Meggoe. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I get it all the time.
All right. So, Danielle, can you just like, do you feel like introducing yourself to the audience and talking a little bit about what is it you're doing?
Sure. So again, my name is Danielle Meggoe. I'm an author of Female Minority Report. I'm also the host and creator of the Sistas Talk podcast.
Okay, okay. So, um, what is your experience as a female, minority female, black female, working in the U.S. corporate world?
Oh, I had many feelings, okay, working as a Black woman in America in the corporate world. I had so many different scenarios, situations that I've been placed in just because of the color of my skin. And that's what really provoked me to write that book, Female Minority Report. So being a minority is one thing, being a female and a minority is a double whammy living in this country. So as you've probably seen on the news, on the headline, BBC or the Sun, our country has been going through complete racial turmoil. We have been for centuries, but it's definitely coming to a full head. So, speaking from my personal experience, I've had a lot of insensitive conversations with people at work, coworkers. I have been berated while trying to simply share my ideas within a group setting. And as we know, we're supposed to treat each other with professional courtesy. And that sometimes just doesn't happen being a woman and particularly a woman of color.
Okay. Do you feel like your white female colleagues, do you feel they have an understanding of how you feel on the workplace?
Well, of course, I can't really speak to what they understand because I don't really sit around and have those type of conversations. But for the few white females that I do know personally, they see the difference in the treatment of Black women versus white women. So obviously there's no mystery to the fact that Black females are not treated with the same level of respect as other race women. Now, why is that? I'm not sure. But one thing that people need to keep in mind as they decide to disrespect us is that African American women are the most educated group of people in the United States of America.
Okay. That being said, I'm curious, like how many degrees do you have? How many degrees do you hold?
I hold 3 degrees. One is my undergraduate study degree in physics with a minor in math. I have a master's degree in aeronautical science with a concentration in space studies. I actually love space. I've always loved it since I was a child. I was actually a part of a program called the Texas Aerospace Scholars Program with NASA in the 11th grade. So that was pretty cool to be a part of. And my last degree is an MBA with a concentration in global management.
Oh my God, I feel so ignorant. Like I feel dumb now. I'm like, oh my God. Good on you. Fascinating. Space is just like really, really, really fascinating. So, what you reckon if we to make maybe a list of what are the most common challenges that you face as a woman, as a black woman on the workplace? Like if you have to name.
Yeah, I would say the most common issue that I deal with personally is just the that people assume that you don't know. They assume that you don't know what you're doing. They assume that you're not the right fit for the role that you're in. They assume that you just landed there because you're a female and they needed to fulfill some type of obligation within the company policy. But, this is not something that just I, encounter. I'm pretty sure a lot of women in general of all races experience this type of, disrespect or I guess exclusion for a better word. But I guess the main thing that I'm trying to bring home to everyone in terms of their understanding is this: let's not label female minority as a cliche term. This is something that people have to deal with every day of their lives because one thing is for sure, I can't change the color of my skin. So because we're deciding
Neither,
on whether
neither should you. That.
exactly. And being with that being said, because I can't change that, and that's something that's permanent, unless I decide to go trying to bleach myself, which I definitely would never consider that. I think that we need to stop attaching this permanent feeling towards people who happen to have darker skin complexions than other people.
Yeah, and what's sad is that maybe some people more vulnerable they could internalize this, and that could really affect their self-esteem and
Yes.
bring to self-hatred, or unless you have a support network or someone that's there for you, people you can talk to that's outside of your workplace. Sorry, I'm gonna lower the intensity of the light, because otherwise I have just the light just in front. So yeah, otherwise it's terrible for my eyes. And so unless you have a support group, that people that support you that's outside your workplace, if you're suffering in your workplace and that's your only group of people, right? Oftentimes you'll go out with your colleague, you'll drink with your colleague. If in that particular context you are isolated, you can find yourself in a very, very bad emotional spot. And sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you really have to work because you have kids at home, because you really need that job and you're not in a position to make a transaction. And that's just pain, 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 pain over, pain and suffering,
Very
injustice,
valid
suffering.
points that you make. In fact, I always hone in on those aspects, right? And what you just mentioned, confidence. So obviously, when you're constantly disrespected or you're encountering these hostile situation or this hostile environment at work because it's associated with your skin tone, that can definitely mess with your psyche. That can definitely promote or trigger PTSD or some form of it. And that inevitably can also trigger health internal issues, and that's something that we don't talk enough about. And just recently, as of 2021, have they reported racial injustice or racism as a condition that promotes illness or disease in the body. So that's a no-brainer. It didn't take a room full of scientists to come up with this research. It's self-evident that most African Americans suffer from different ailments like hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, the list just goes on. And no, I'm not saying that every ailment is directly correlated with work, but a lot of it is.
Okay, so we're talking Afro Americans in America. So we're talking within the context, within the higher matrix of the American state, right? Because there's very matrices. Your maybe the state, your workplace, your community, your family,
Exactly.
and
All
within
of
that.
these things, all of these elements that you're listing are factors and triggers to stress. And we play down stress and its ability to tear us apart. It can literally kill people. And I don't think that we emphasize enough the importance of de-stressing. But the question is, how do you de-stress as a Black person that's being profile targeted or disrespected every day at work because they're simply Black or brown? It's just ridiculous. And it doesn't just apply to the African American race, of course, it applies to all races that are considered minorities. And this has a direct effect on our health, our mental function and capabilities, our happiness, our moods, everything. It affects every aspect of our lives. So I want people to stop playing down this whole narrative that, oh, racism, we're still talking about this. We're still talking about it because it still exists and it's still affecting people every day.
Yeah, it does exist, and it's like you said, the news are really, really tragic coming from the US. On top of that, you are sort of bubbled in this context, right? You don't have when you are in this, like you are in this country, in this state, so you don't have an outside perspective, an outside vision. And as for detents, I don't know what you can do. Probably yoga helps. Probably the breathing, like there's some breathings you can do out of your mouth that you can, like, with your stomach, and just some things to just detense, because all of this tension gets piled up,
Exactly.
and then it has an effect also on your family, because you need some sort of output, right? A place where
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that
I
can
think,
really affect.
in cases of thinking about solutions, we definitely, people who are encountering racism at work, in their communities, in their environment, seek help, get counseling. But better yet, how we get to the root of the issue is educating those people who continue to brew racism and hate towards races that they feel are inferior. That's the bottom line. That's us getting directly to the point and fixing the problem. It starts with correcting the mindset of those who believe that they're superior compared to everyone else. That's where we have to start, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. Another point may be in just work design, the way workplaces are designed, because like I guess that if you're sort of introduced into a structure, depending on your race, you just adopt a behavior, right? You're part of that system, of that work system. It has certain unwritten rules, and you somehow, because you are in that context, become part of the problem, because that's what usually goes on. I don't know if you can understand my
But
my
what we
my, my
call it
point.
here, workplace politics, right? And there's typically no way really around that, because it really depends on who's running the corporation and what their mindset is set up. And that's the reason why I alluded to what I just said. You know, if we fix the mindsets of those who believe that they're superior and that everyone else is inferior, then here that's a true start. Because I've noticed something about our society here in America, is it, you know, from my own experience, is that we're always quick to want to correct or modify the people who are being oppressed, right? Their behavior. But what about the people who are oppressing those individuals and those groups of people? That to me is the root of the issue. If we help those people to understand and educate them about their behavior and how it is affecting everyone else around them in a negative way, then just maybe we'll have a chance at really combating this illness that we're dealing with. And that illness is racism.
Okay, and to do that, the first of all, how does that sense of superiority is built? Is it built because of the society you live in? So you may just receive a different treatment, I don't know,
Yes,
for
for
being
sure.
white or black over and over and
Yes,
over, and then your
yes,
automatic correlation is, well, I'm getting a better treatment. There must be something about me that's special that all of these other people don't have, and
right.
therefore I'm entitled to behave a certain way, which I view as normal. And up until obviously you read maturity, and then it becomes, I guess, deliberate. Uh,
That's part of it. Definitely a huge chunk of it. But also, I think what's really important that we always skip over and fail to acknowledge is the upbringing. I do believe that every child is born with no knowledge of different complexions and how it makes them feel, or doesn't make them feel anyway. Kids love all colors and all shades. You could be purple or yellow or green. Kids don't care about color. Adults do. And that's because someone has conditioned that child from childhood to believe a certain narrative, right? And they've sculpted and they've molded the mindset of this being who grew up to become an adult who became oppressive to people who didn't look like him or her. That's what I believe.
so that if the problem is, like you say, good point. If that is the problem, so the solution is in parenting and schools, starting from parenting and schools, and what if there is a problem in the American society where community are divided, like urbanistically divided, like they live in different sectors of the
Which is
city.
deliberate, as you know. Yes, of course.
There,
And
there,
it has it's even more deeper than the socioeconomic aspect, right? We're simply talking about the upbringing of kids. If you take a child A and B to school, and one parent is teaching him that everyone is from the same source, we're all a part of the same race, which is the human race. And then you have child B who is being raised to believe that only our race is superior. If you have skin lighter than the shade of an olive branch, then you're okay, you're smart, you're going to be successful. Anything darker than the brown paper bag, then they're stupid, they're idiotic, or whatever the other, negative connotations that are associated with darker skin tones. I mean, if you have child A and child B, no matter if they did go to the same school, they're going to have different ideologies. Why? Because the upbringing, their parents molded their mindset to believe one way or the other. So child A is going to go into society being fully accepting of any person based upon their race, culture, or religion, because that's how they were raised at home. They went to the same school as child B, but child B is going to believe automatically that I'm inferior because I'm female and I'm black. And what does she know? Right? Yeah, she has those degrees, but what does she really know? It's not apparent to child B, right? Who grew
okay.
up to become an adult.
Okay. So it's about that culture, and maybe we just people don't talk to each other. They may be living in echo chambers, right? When you have like a group of parents or a group you're part of, and everyone sort of aligns with one ideology, then it becomes a echo chamber, and it reinforces itself. And since you don't talk to people outside of your circle, then it becomes sort of a self-fulfilling negative prophecy. That could be part of the.
Yeah, and I don't think that a lot of people are aware of it. Now, there's a lot of people who are, but there are some that were literally brought up to believe a certain way, and they they haven't branched off and started operating on their own yet, if that makes sense, off of their own mental faculty. They're
Yeah.
solely relying on how they were brought up. And a lot of us do that, even in our
and
30s or
and
40s, and we don't realize it.
that is also because it's easy, right? Because whenever you
Mhm.
align yourself with an ideology that's common, that you just cut up from your parents, or that's from a particular group of people, whether it's fascism or Marxism or capitalism, it's just easy, no? That's kind of like installing a software, and you just run by that software, so you don't have to bother and develop complex
That's right.
reasonments. You just go with whatever the ordinary status quo is, and you just take it for granted, and no worries. So I think a lot of people are
Exactly.
on autopilot. They just go, when you're driving and you're like just driving, it's automatic. You're, I don't know, talking on your phone, and it's just all programmed, and you just keep going, and that's just the usual. And but in so doing, if it's negative, you just as you go along, you keep hurting people, and either you don't realize or you don't care, or both, usually a combination of both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great analogy, by the way, too. That's exactly right. I completely agree with that. And it doesn't make it right. But again, if we can hone in on this, and we are honing in America, you guys can see, African American people, people of color in general, we're tired. We're tired of being under these oppressive rules and regulations in this country. But yet we're on one side, we're saying, oh, this is a great country. And don't get me wrong, economically, we're superior. We are great in that regard. I'll use that word because the United States is a land of opportunity and we value that. However, we can't value the money and not value the people that are making these opportunities available for everyone.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. So now you are the founders of two organizations. The first one is Sister Talks LLC. What is the purpose of that organization, of those conversations?
Yes. So I actually came up with Sistas Talk back in 2018 and formed the LLC June of 2019. And the whole purpose behind that, our organization, is to remove the stigma of counseling in our communities. So I'm not sure if you're familiar much because you're in a different country from me, but African Americans here in America, for the longest, we always thought that it was weird to go see a counselor or weird to go see a therapist. It kind of associates you seeing a therapist with, oh, you must be really crazy, like what's wrong with you? And so I wanted to remove that stigma and start promoting the conversation about, listen, if you're dealing with something, if you're dealing with depression, maybe you're dealing with some childhood trauma that needs to be resolved, it's okay to get help. It's okay to talk about this type of thing. The more you talk about it, the faster you're going to heal. And I think that's something that's a narrative that's not promoted in our culture enough. Now I believe in 2021, we're getting on the train. We're understanding it's okay to release. Even the Black men, the African American men have been taught since childhood not to cry, not to express how they feel, not to tell someone that they've hurt their feelings. And that in turn has caused them to react in other negative ways because we're human and we need to be able to have an outlet and outpour our feelings to someone, and I want to make that a normal thing. I want people to stop
Yeah.
feeling like they
and
have to
and and, and what
hold it
is
in.
important, it's like you said, it's not what you said, it's important consulting. What I add is it's important going to the, whatever the root of the problem is, and maybe attributing responsibilities, whether it's something that's part of your childhood, whether it's something you're suffering, psychologically suffering because of the context you're in, your workplace, some inner wounds. Another thing that made me really good is, I don't know if maybe taking a trip, going to some other country, I don't know, going to South America or traveling somewhere else, and just looking at your context from outside and understanding maybe the differences in treatment that you get, and just, if you have a chance, just detaching yourself and looking the country from outside. I mean, from whatever country you're from,
Right.
so you can just, that's a really good way to pull yourself out of that, out of that context, and really meditate on what's going on. um And another thing I wanted to say, yeah, important is also the receiving end, right? It is important, like you said, talking to someone, expressing whatever hurt or pain that you have. But it's also important that the receiving end, it's the appropriate person, because sometimes you'll talk to your, I don't know, to your friends or to your sister, and that's not the right person for talking about that. Or you try to talk maybe to a colleague, but that's
Mhm.
not the designed person for that job. So it's important to have on the other side, maybe, or someone who's a professional, like you said,
Yes,
counseling, or someone who's just, a good, compassionate, comprehensive, non-judgmental human being that just listens and tries to find solutions.
yes, yes, absolutely. And in fact, we created a few events, that kind of circled around some hot topics like tools for dating, even. A lot of people have issues with dating, in this country. Why? Because they're dealing with all these outside stresses that you and I talked about on the show today. Also, they're dealing with the way they were brought up, right? Upbringing, maybe different from the person that they're trying to date. There's so many different variations. So we create a safe place to discuss these issues so that we can work towards finding solutions for people in a group setting. You can think about it as like people who are trying to get off of alcohol addiction, right? Some type of rehab. That's what we promote. We promote events like that so we can talk about these topics that are something that are kind of embarrassing for people to talk about, but in a safe place where we can have open, honest dialogue. We get to the root of all these issues in those events. So I can't wait for COVID to go away so we can start them up again.
Yeah, that is important. Like having a safe place where you can talk openly and transparently. Okay, where you don't have to all of the time, playing maybe this game or saying, well, it's convenient because maybe you have to advance your career or you're trying to do whatever or to be this person. So you just have a place where you can openly talk. And as for dating, sometimes like really we come up from different contexts. So we'll give up with, I mean, we give some habits and behavior just for granted because that's where we grew up.
Right.
So our way of life is just like, yeah, that is obvious, but that may not be so obvious for the other person, right? Because
Yes.
people really, even in your own neighborhood or area, you could have the house next door and or the neighbor that's leading a totally, someone that's nearby that but is living a totally different life from yours, that comes from a totally different mentality and mindset. And so you just have probably to have some more understanding. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, definitely. And as you know, like America is the melting pot, right? So you have people from all walks of life, living here. So it's gonna be some struggle, right? Because we do think everybody does things differently. Everybody's culture is slightly different from each other. So I don't expect us to be completely unified. No. But I do expect us to have respect for one another and to respect our differences. That's what I want for this country.
Yeah, respect differences and probably being tolerant. Like a lot of problems, a lot of in relationships and interaction can just be avoided with some degree of tolerance.
Mhm.
Because people fight over petty little things. People
Exactly.
get aggressive on each other or shout on each other or, just on really petty little things. And then it becomes a self-reinforcing pattern. You don't even know why you are behaving a certain way, but it just becomes a habit, like people shouting at each other on TV, and
Mhm.
they just go on, and on and on and on. I don't know if you've seen that. Here it's
Of
it's
course.
pretty
Yes.
common, right? And then you don't even know where this thing started. You know,
Mhm.
I
That's
was
true.
uh, I was interviewing one historian, and he's an expert on, I think, Byzantine
Yeah,
history.
Byzantine history. Yes, I love it.
And he was talking about, how it just went crazy, like some story with the Armenians and different communities, and some of the hatreds that are between communities. You can't even track them back because they go back to like 1300, 1200. So some misunderstandings started between
Mhm.
some communities, and now they are still fighting it. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So, it was fascinating talking with this historian and looking at some of the historical correlation, of just
That's
sort of
human nature, I
tribal
feel.
tribal wars that go on, and you don't even know why, why you hate this person, or what's going on, and it's
And again, it's because the upbringing never changed, right? The conversation, the storytelling never changed. The same hate they had thousands of years ago still exists today. Why? Because the people that are passing down the information haven't changed.
yeah, because then maybe there never was a healthy debate on never really healthy, transparent, healing debate. That's one possibility. Another on the brackets. I'm not an expert on Byzantine history, so I just said something that maybe some
Yeah, no, but
historian
I used to
listening.
love that segment of art because I studied that in art in college and I loved it. So,
Oh, okay, okay. So now you have. Let's go on. So you have your. No, wait a minute. I have some other question. Um, so how do you correlate or combine a successful career with being a mother and a wife, and overall, live fulfilled life?
well, number one, you have to have support, right? You can't do it all by yourself. You have to have some sense of number two, time management. So you can't devote all your time, towards your projects and not your family. You can't devote all your time to your family and no time for your projects. So you have to have some sense of what it is that you want to get accomplished. Write it down, add it to your calendars, map it out first, and have a strategy, a plan to move forward. And those are the two main things that I use to keep myself balanced is having a support system, which is my family, my friends, being able to call somebody up to depend on, to maybe share ideas with, to see what they think about a certain situation or project that I'm handling at the time. Or, my husband, he's my great support system. Any questions that I have or any support I need as far as our children, he's there. So as long as you're utilizing those two sources, I think that anybody can do anything that they set their heart to.
Okay, that's a good answer. What is your purpose in? No, wait a minute. Let's do another question. So, what are three recommendations for someone whose ambition is writing a book? Like, what are three
Oh,
tips in
three
just in
tips.
the developing
Just
the
three?
book?
No, I'm kidding. Three tips. Let's see. First tip would be find out what it is that you want your audience to know. Like, what message are you trying to relay to the audience? And is it worth relaying it? Just sit there and think about it. Write your blueprint, jot down some ideas and see if it makes sense to you. And the second thing, if you're writing a book, just know that it's going to take some time. So don't rush yourself. Give yourself all the time in the world. I know some people, it took them 10 years to write their first book. For me, it took about a year and a half, but I kind of already knew what I wanted to write about. And I kind of already knew that once I wrote it and I put it out there, it was going to just catch like wildfire because this is something that we had been dealing with for a long time. And number three, just making sure that because it can be expensive creating a book or it can be inexpensive. So make sure you do your research. Make sure you find out if do you want to be a self-publisher or do you want to find a publishing company that may be interested in what you have to write about. But just remember what you want to write about may not always be what people want to read about. So keep that in mind as well. And those would be my three uh, pieces of advice to any potential writer or current writers out there.
Okay, that's some really good tips. Blueprint. Take your time and understand if your whatever you are writing is valuable to a broader audience. Um, so what is your definition of success?
Definition of success is just first of all setting something like a goal or something that you have set in mind as a bucket list item and you accomplishing that. It doesn't even matter if people clap for you or if they attended. If you set a goal and you smashed it, to me that's success. If you've helped someone with something, whether it's to write their book, for example, or for them to get beyond whatever depressive state they were in. I'm using very grand examples, but these to me that is success. if you say you want to put it together an event, for a good cause, and you put it together and only 3 people show up, don't look at that as failure. You succeeded in what it is that you created for yourself to do. You accomplished it. And to me, that alone is success.
Okay, so fixing your own set of goals and your own list, and then just tipping off that list, seeing that you are accomplishing and that you are pushing forward the ball. That is a success on whatever makes you really, whatever fulfills you, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people associate success with numbers, right? We think, oh, I need to have $1 million. I'm successful. And it's like, no, you don't. That would be nice. I want my million too. But if you don't reach $1 million, if you made $1,000, now you're only off one, a million minus 1,000 left to go. Just keep going. That's my best advice to anyone out there.
Yeah, and you may not exactly need $1 million, and do you need it really? Why do you need it? That is important, because there's a lot of, like I said, we are in this context. We get a lot of marketing, we get a lot of I don't know, a lot of advertisement from TV, some models of lifestyles that we get. So we should ask, do I really need $1 million? How much do I need for my personal situation? What is good for me? A million
That's
dollar
right.
may work for someone else, may work for you, but not necessarily. So I guess just being real with your situation, with where you are, and understanding if that's really, really valuable for you just now.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and probably.
Understanding where you are currently is everything. That determines everything in your life. What you can compare and say what success is, what you can compare and say, well, this is where I want to be or where I need to be in the next 2 to 3 years. Never compare yourself to other people. That's one message I want to put out there as well. We do a lot of that, in every society all over the planet. You got to stop doing that. You are unique. You have your own unique potential and also talents. So just learn how to capitalize on the talents that you have. And every time you accomplish a goal, that is success.
Yeah, that's a good one. Every time you accomplish a goal, that is success. And another thing I want to I want to know your opinion about. It's as soon as you can, designing a space that is just for you, whether that is a business, a service you provide, a non-for-profit organization, that you can design your own little community, your own little project that gives you satisfaction, so that you are not boxed into these jobs and all of these narrative. And I believe making sure that you are living your dream, because I don't know how to explain it. It came to my mind recently, and what came to my mind is that Ford or Mercedes had a dream, and that dream was for every person around the world to have own a Ford or Mercedes. Okay, then they take the TV and the marketing and they pump it out for everybody. But then you ask, right, as an individual, is that really my dream? Or is that a easy dream that I subscribe to, that actually is really a dream that's by someone
That
else,
was
right?
programmed into your mind. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
programmed into your mind, but someone else had the dream. I'm gonna sell 50 billion car, and you're gonna buy it, okay? And you're gonna be
Yeah.
and your role in this dream is that you're gonna be a consumer, an active
Yeah.
consumer. And then do you have to ask yourself, do I really need this specific model of car, or is it just transportation? Do I really want it? It's part of my goals, it gives me a sense of
Right, right. And that's what I
fulfillment,
meant by implanting
or
that idea in your mind. Because when we watch TV, right,
mm,
it's this neurological connection that we're making with the TV. We don't realize it. It's a subconscious connection. When we see a food item on TV, right, fast food, and it's like, oh, you see a burger and fries flash across the screen. It's like, do you really need that burger or fries? Or can you just go fix yourself a turkey sandwich with, salad or something?
or an
Just giving you an
avocado.
example. Or
Yeah,
even just simply, or just an orange. Maybe you're not even hungry, but
yeah.
that visual stimulation said to your brain that, oh, I want the burger and fries. It created some impulsive reaction, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and some places you really need a car. Some places you really need. So if you live outside, you live in the farm, or but so some cities you can navigate with public transportation or with electric bicycles or just other ways
to get
to
around. Yeah.
yeah, to get around. And you should get it if you need it, if you have kids, if you have stuff to carry around.
Mhm.
um you can lease it. That's much better than buy it. It doesn't lose value. It's you can give it back anytime with a leasing, and it's not yours.
Best part about leasing, yeah.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
just crazy about cars. You lose 30-40% of value immediately, and people keep buying it. And
Oh
oftentimes
yeah,
it has to do with your social, whatever,
that is.
social
Oh yeah, for
validation,
sure.
and you end up spending
Yeah.
a lot of money. So um, okay, just one question. So you have kids. You said you have kids. First of all, are they boys or girls or both?
Girls,
Okay.
but girls, yeah.
What is the vision you have? What is the world you'd like to hand them over in the future? What world would you like your daughters to live in? And what
Hmm.
and what are you ready to do? What battles are you ready to do in order for this to happen?
To come into existence. So
Yes.
yeah, that's a very good question. I want a world that's gonna be progressive and have evolved from the state that we're in today, with dealing with all this stuff that you're seeing in the news with killings of unarmed black men, to a world that now respects and acknowledges everyone equally for their potential, allow their work to speak for who they are, allow their actions to speak to their character as opposed to the color of their skin, because we've been talking about this since 1950s and 60s. These great leaders in America have since gone and died now, and we're still having the same conversation. So I want to have a progressive world to pass over to my children, where they can go into the world and be productive, be successful, plan out their career goals or the businesses that they want to own without having to worry about different interest rates because of the color of their skin, or having to compete at a severe level because there's so many steps behind because of how people perceive them. I want to pass that world over to them. And I'm making a change right now with having Sistas Talk LLC so that we can open the mindsets of so many people by having my book published, Female Minority Report, in hopes that many different cultures will read it, not just African Americans. I want everyone to read this book because I want you to understand how an African American female with 3 degrees, how I feel in this country. I still feel very stifled because of the mindsets of those leaders that are leading this country at this time. So it all to me starts with the mindset. If we can redevelop our mindsets, open up our hearts and our minds to understanding that people are very different, no matter what skin tone that they possess, that a person can be good or bad, no matter how they look to you, that you should always allow their character to speak. Allow them to get, a chance, allow yourself to have an opportunity to get to know individuals first before you judge them. And I know that judging is just a human reaction, right? We see things, we react, whether it's mental or physical. But I would really like to see a dynamic shift in how we're treating people today in our country and also around the world.
Yes, that is a very good, beautiful point right there. And especially, you should be competing, and I mean, you should be competing if you want to. Like, you should be competing if you're doing something that I mean, you should be competing for that $1 million, but you shouldn't have a super harsh competition for what it's basic fundamental human rights, and just leading a good life and doing okay. Okay, because some people are really fighting for having just a decent life, which should be which everybody should be able to tap into.
That's right.
And from there, if you want to compete for the gold medal, you want to compete for the $1 million, well, okay, that's something else. um uh, um oh, okay, I have another question. I'm sorry, because I have my little notebook. So the next okay, you are founder of two organizations, and the second organization is called Creating Our Community Enrichment Program. What is the mission of that organization?
Yes. So when I created that nonprofit organization, it was in 2014. My number one mission behind creating my nonprofit is to give back to the communities. So in November of 2020, we collected blankets and clothes and items that would care package items for our elderly people in our community, because oftentimes, we go into these harsh winter months. It's not very harsh at all. I'm in the South, but it gets pretty cold for elderly couples and people who live alone. So we want to make sure that they're staying warm, that they have the items that they need, toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, things of that nature, socks. And so it just brings me joy to be able to give back. Even the year before, which was December of 2019, we did a toy drive. So for families who didn't have money to afford, toys, I collected a lot of donations. I myself purchased a lot of toys, and I literally just gave them out to families who met me at the particular location where we were distributing the toys and gifts. And we gave away to at least 15 families. And in addition to that, we also donated female clothes for women who have children who were fleeing domestic violence relationships. So I was able to deliver over 251 items.
That is horrible. I'm going to intervene that as for domestic violence, and I was looking on Vice. I just didn't know. I never thought about it. That there is another form of domestic violence. It is domestic violence coming from a figure of authority that may be an officer or a higher member of the army, etc. Right? And they were talking about cases in England where it then becomes difficult to denounce, okay, or where some woman got sued. That's like you're married, okay, your husband is from the whatever police chief of police, whatever. He'll sue you. He'll tell the whatever his friends basically that you aggress him and take your children away from you while he was being violent towards you for the last 10 years. Okay, so that happens, and it's even can be even more dangerous. Obviously, I think they're proper good men and women that are part of all types of, whether they're medics, officers, you name it. They're just good people everywhere. But we tend always to focus on the negative people, on the rotten apples. But
Yes.
I just wanted to intervene there. And I find it very important, the job you did, especially for elderly, because just now in COVID, during lockdown, maybe they are the most vulnerable link. They're suffering. Maybe they don't have people to talk to. The grandchildren may be working in some other city, so they find themselves alone at home. Some not being able to use a digital or technological device, and so that's valuable, and not everyone has can afford the toys, you know.
That's right. And so for
Yeah.
the elderly, we just went to a living facility place, and we dropped off a few diapers, care items. We dropped off blankets. We dropped off everything, because even when the elderly they live in these living facilities. These living facilities also run out of supplies, which I was completely unaware of until 2020. And I called around just asking, and we're like, "Yeah, we'll accept whatever you bring in." So, you know, wherever I can help, that's what I do. And I have a good team of board members that help me as well. So I'm grateful to have that small team that helps me. And we just unite with other nonprofits, and we make it happen every year.
That's beautiful. That's fantastic. However, I just gonna say again, mine is that just some things shouldn't rely on charity, or you shouldn't rely on people like you, or so many people. Hopefully, more and more people that like you take action. Some things should just be guaranteed by, I don't know, people paying taxes, or just some institution that should grant some basic
All right.
fundamental standards, possibly higher and higher standards. We should reach a standard, utopically, I don't know, maybe it's a little crazy, around the world, where everybody's living a ecologically low impact middle class lifestyle, where you have
Yeah.
choices, where you have a choice that you can go out, you can explore, you can do your things, and just some things are taken care are taken care of, such as the diapers for the elderly
Mhm.
people. That shouldn't be people going out, and that can be
Exactly.
some added value, but it
Mhm.
so maybe raise the standards a little more
I
around
agree.
around the world. So last Okay, you agree, thanks. So how can people become a part of this reality creating our community and enrichment program? How can they contribute?
Yeah.
How can
So
they
if
get involved?
anybody wants to, yeah, sure. If anybody wants to help us out or just kind of wants to know more about what we do and keep up with our schedule, you can go to the website. It's just COCEP at Gmail. I'm sorry, I'm giving you the email address .com. So creating our community enrichment program, just the acronym of that .com. Okay. And then you can reach us at our email, which I tried to give you ahead of time. It's COCEP at gmail.com. So you can either email me direct or you can reach out to me by phone at 832-590-0691. Just shoot me a text. Let me know, hey, in the subject line, just say COCEP or nonprofit help. And then we'll definitely reach back out to you.
Okay, that is for US in around the area of Georgia, in Georgia, Atlanta.
Actually, no. So we're in the Houston area, Houston, Texas, for
Houston,
people who are
Texas. I'm
outside of the
sorry.
country. And we're no, you're fine. You wouldn't know, right? So we're U.S. Central Standard Time. If anyone outside of the country would like to know that, and we're always available, so feel free to text us anytime. Give us at least 24 hours to reach back out to you.
Okay, last. What is your last? I don't know. Some last three things to expect from your book, and then leave us with I don't know, a positive, your final positive, most positive message.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know about the last part, but I can tell you that for my female minority report, which is my book, we're going to do a relaunch this summer. So kind of keep your eyes peeled out for that. If you want to keep up with all the updates, you can go to www.femaleminorityreport.com. A lot of information there. Get to know me a little bit better. Feel free to email me if you have questions. Maybe you just kind of want to understand the African American culture a little bit better. Maybe you didn't know that there were actually racial disparities for Black females in America, and that's okay. Email me. I'll answer any question that you have. I've had people that already have started emailing me, asking questions. No question is a dumb question. I'm here to help educate you about my experience and about how other African American people are feeling right now in America. So feel free. Also, I would say in closing for Sistas Talk, I would say anybody that wants to be a guest on the show, if you know he's a great artist or a great musician or someone that's a great teacher. We need more great teachers out there, as we already know. Feel free to inbox me. If you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, and you want your communities to know more information about the products and services that you offer, send me an email. You can text me at the same number, 832-590-0691, or send me an email at sisters, SISTASCWT at gmail.com. We just recently interviewed the mathematical genius of the GPS system, Mrs. Gladys May West. A lot of people don't even know who she is, but we need to know these people. She's 91 years old, and you guessed it, she's an African American female. So, things like this, we're just bringing to the surface. We're bringing to the surface the truth about our history. And we don't want to denote it anymore as, Black History Month. We want to denote it as American history, because that's what it is. And lastly, I will say, I'm going to close this out by saying this. Never compare yourself to what other people are doing. You are your own unique person. Love you. Activate your self-love if you haven't been doing so. As you see, the world is shifting. People are waking up. We're realizing what we used to do wasn't always necessarily the right thing to do. It's okay to just say you're sorry to someone that you've maybe been, disrespecting unconsciously. It's okay. It's all right to start forming better friendships, better bonds and relationships, better work environments moving forward. Because after all, life is all about evolution and growth. And I want to see more people doing that. Embrace you, embrace all your flaws, and then just grow and love yourself and develop something great from that.
Fantastic. I will add all of your contacts in the description. I will we'll close this. Then I'll talk just a few minutes. I'll stop the recording because we're recording this, and I'll talk for you a few minutes. Danielle Meggoe, please say it correctly.
No,
Danielle.
Danielle Meggoe, and I want to thank you so much for having me on your show today. Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you, Danielle Meggoe. Okay.
Yes.